All right, guys, we're going to start today's show here. Today's a show you're going to want to watch. Moms and dads, tag a friend. Parents of kids in schools, tag a friend and share the show. You're going to want to watch today's show. We're going to be talking just real life stuff, man. Like the struggles we're feeling, like my wife and I with our kid in schooling, the same struggles you guys are feeling with your kids. Who do we as parents love more in life than our children? Right? No one. I mean, you can't even put in perspective the love we have for these kids, right? And to see like so much vulnerability and uncertainty and volatility and misallocation is soul crushing. We're going to talk the topic that undoubtedly went viral on the I Love CVille network over the weekend. The prioritization of the school board and the front office on rebranding schools instead of paying teachers and bus drivers a fair wage to keep them in the hallways and on school buses. From my standpoint, this seems like common sense, but the deeper I dig into this, the more I realize it's not. I mean, the schools just are not run like businesses with common sense. They're run from this mindset of trying to appeal to perception. A lot we're going to cover on the program, guys. Give the show a like and a share. We work hard for you. The only thing we ask in return is that you like and share the show, and if you'd like, interact with us on the program. That would mean the absolute world to us, please. Give it a like, give it a share. School board members, you're going to be in the spotlight today. School board members from the Jack Jewett District, the Rio District, the Rivanna District, the Samuel Miller District, the Scottsville District, the Whitehall. I mean, there is something wrong here. And we're going to try to get to the bottom of it today on the program. Let's welcome our friends in Crozet to the broadcast. Let's welcome Sharon Fix to the broadcast. Our friends in the city of Charlottesville, Richmond and Short Pump, hello and welcome to the show. Ivy, welcome to the program. Richmond and Chesterfield, welcome to the program. Lynchburg, hello and welcome to the show. McLean and Arlington, welcome to the broadcast. Give it a like, give it a share. Give it a like and give it a share, my friends. Neil Williamson, hello. Heather Walker, retired teacher, hello. I've heard from so many teachers over the last handful of days. And just like I stand with the blue and I stand by the police, I stand by the teachers. Because this is not the teachers' fault. They've been put in a position that is a position that cannot be won. And that's why you're seeing people quit. Judah Wickhauer is our director, and just like we had on Friday, J-Dubs, let's have a conversation. All right, I can rock and roll, my friend, when you're ready. Good Monday afternoon, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to the I Love CVille show. Thank you kindly for joining us on a glorious Monday to be above the mud. Our audience is Charlottesville, Central Virginia, Commonwealth Country, and worldwide on the I Love CVille network. And today we're presented by the Clifton in Keswick. Just a fantastic boutique hotel that makes dreams a reality when it comes to events, and to weddings, and to happy hour, and to dinner. Whether it's happy hour dinner or a special time for your family at a wedding, the Clifton in Keswick is your choice. I've seen it firsthand. The team is talented. The Clifton in Keswick. So much I'm going to cover on today's program. And I'm going to encourage you, the viewer and listener, to be a part of the show by offering your thoughts and perspective in the feed. Today, we're going to cover the type of content that matters the most, and that's our children. My wife and I became parents 4.5 years ago with the birth of our first son. Some of you may have heard last week when I mentioned that we're expecting a second son around Thanksgiving, about 10 weeks away. Our first son, 4.5 years old, is precocious, rambunctious, mischievous, high energy, and a sponge for learning. Now, my wife and I are considering where is he going to go for kindergarten. Where is he going to go for these impressionable years that determine the success and foundation for elementary school, middle school, high school, and beyond? And as we have taken a deeper dive into this, the red flags and the concerns have become very obvious and evident. And as we spend more time learning and understanding these red flags, we also realize that the solutions are not easy, and we're far from the finish line for finding those solutions. Look, it's no secret that we don't have enough teachers in the classrooms. We don't have enough substitutes when the teachers are sick. It's no secret that the after-school programs at many of the schools in our area are shadows of their former selves. It's no secret that the bus driver situation is a significant predicament, as challenging and equally as important as the teacher shortage. If we can't get the kids to school on time and back home on time, how are they going to perform well in the classroom on tests and on SOLs? And before I take a deep dive on this topic, I want to say this. I do not blame the teachers. I stand by the teachers. I stand by the bus drivers, the substitutes, the teaching assistants, just like I stand by the police. And I mentioned last week I've caught in a lot of heat for making that statement. I stand by blue. And as a friend of the program, and I hope she's watching, and I want to mention to you again how important your text message to me this morning was, because we have caught in a lot of heat. And while we have tremendously thick skin on this program, we're human. But my friend, she sent me this text this morning. She said, doing the right thing is never the wrong thing. And I truly believe utilizing this platform and the massive reach that we have, a reach that is larger than traditional and legacy media in Charlottesville, I truly believe pressure is a privilege. And we're going to utilize this platform and this reach to continue voicing our concerns when it comes to the public school system. The performance in these schools is at levels that I didn't think I'd ever see. Granted, I've been on the earth for 41 years. when friend of the program John Blair, the king of knowledge, a father himself, a husband himself, his talented, intelligent young man in Albemarle County Public Schools, when he puts things on my radar like 9% of black students at Scottsville Elementary have passed the math SOL, when he positions things on my radar like 19% of Hispanic kids at Mountain View Elementary have passed the math SOL, 24% of black students at Mountain View Elementary have passed the math SOL, I'm taken aback. 9% of black students at Scottsville Elementary have passed the math SOL. Please think about that. 1 in 4 black students at Mountain View Elementary are passing the math SOL. Less than 1 in 5 Hispanic students are passing the math SOL at Mountain View. And that's just 2 schools. If we take a really deep dive into the Charlottesville City school system, we'd see even worse numbers, even more concerning statistics. This is going to be the topic of today's program. And I want you to give me 30 seconds before I get into this topic because I want to let you know what's going to happen tomorrow. Tomorrow, Cole Hendricks, the former city manager of Charlottesville, is going to be on the show. He was the city manager of this city for 25 years. And when you have a tenure and a term of 25 years, you're doing something right. Cole Hendricks was a driving influence of the downtown mall, a driving influence of the revenue sharing agreement with Albemarle County, a driving influence of the creation of the Rivanna Water and Sewer Authority and the Rivanna Solid Waste Authority. Cole Hendricks got the University of Virginia, the City of Charlottesville, and Albemarle County into a cooperation agreement. Lloyd Snook put this on my radar last week, and tomorrow, this interview with Janet, his talented, dynamic, and beautiful wife, becomes a reality. Cole Hendricks, the driving force behind the Market Street parking garage and the new City Hall. So many things that we cherish and we hold so dearly trickle back to Cole Hendricks. Tomorrow, Janet and Cole sit across from me on this show. We'll spend an hour with them, reminiscing, talking history, showcasing their love. When I spoke with Janet on the phone over the weekend to prep for tomorrow's interview, she said, Cole, and I quote, is the love of my life. And he's not in the best of health right now, and I'll let her explain that tomorrow. But when she said, he is the love of my life, it reminded me of how I feel about my wife. Tomorrow's interview is going to be a special one. Please mark your calendars for 12:30. I have no doubt, and I'm getting a little emotional right now, I have no doubt that the emotions will be palpable and tangible tomorrow. 12:30 tomorrow. Now, folks, let's talk schools. Meriwether Lewis Elementary in Ivy, the latest school under consideration for rebranding. I'm going to let you know the schools in Albemarle County that are currently under review for rebranding efforts. Agner Hurt Elementary School, Baker Butler Elementary School, Stone Robinson Elementary School, Broadus Wood Elementary School. The school board chose to keep that name in place. Mary Greer Elementary School, the school board decided to keep that name in place. Cale Elementary School was rebranded as Mountain View. Virginia Murray, that name is staying in place. Murray Elementary. From a middle school standpoint, these schools are still under consideration. Burley Middle School, Henley Middle School, Walton Middle School. Jack Jewett Middle School was rebranded Journey. Sutherland was rebranded Lakeside. From a high school standpoint, Murray rebranded Community Lab. As of now, you have Cale to Mountain View, that's one. You have Jack Jewett to Journey, that's two. Sutherland to Lakeside, that's three. And Murray to the Community Lab, that's four. 4 schools have been rebranded as of now. I'm going to ask you a straightforward question. Monticello High School. When does the school board say, hey, it's time to rebrand Monticello, home to Thomas Jefferson? He's got some things in his past that were sketchy. Slavery. Impregnating a slave. When do we consider rebranding Monticello? You don't think that conversation is going to happen? It's 2022. You don't think the conversation of rebranding Monticello is going to happen? When do we say enough is enough? When do we say enough already? And I take this approach from the lens or the microscope of concern. Teachers are quitting schools at an aggressive clip. According to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, the number of people employed in public schools dropped from almost 8.1 million in March 2020 to 7.3 million in May of this year. That's an 800,000 person drop in employed people in public schools in the United States of America. Public schools in our country, according to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, are short 360,000 people. 360,000 people short. And who's suffering? Who's catching the heat and the pain for this? The teachers are. Because the parents are like, what the hell is going on? My kid's struggling to read. My kid's struggling to add. Look at how he or she are performing on the SOLs. The teachers are catching the heat. The students are catching the heat. They're getting to school after first period is over. They're getting home almost 2 hours after school is let out because we don't have enough bus drivers. But you want to know something? This is not the teacher's fault. Think about the conditions of teaching today. A teacher has classrooms that are more crowded than ever before. Do more with less is what front office leadership says. Do more with less. Front office leadership says, bring your own money to the table for supplies. Front office leadership says, you're going to have more kids in your classroom than ever before and you better perform. If you're a teacher, you're left scratching your head. And here's the predicament you're in. School shootings are the routine. Now you have to teach the ABCs, the 1, 2, 3s, and you may even have to protect your students from a school shooting incident. Now you have to teach the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s, and you have to do it with the classroom that's more crowded than ever. Now you have to teach the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s, and you have to do it without school resource officers in the building. No school resource officers means very little discipline. We're going to welcome Judah Wickower to the program here in a matter of minutes. He explained a scenario last week of someone at his church, a teacher who quit. Why did that teacher quit? Because this particular teacher was fed up. The kids don't listen. They're on their cell phones nonstop. They have earbuds in nonstop. Heck, they are vaping and hitting the vape pen in the classroom, and nothing can be done about it. They get sent to the principal's office, and the principal has a little chitter-chatter with them and sends them right back to the classroom. Right back to the classroom. After a few times of getting sent to the principal's office and they're getting sent right back to the classroom, guess what? Kids aren't dumb. They realize there's no accountability. So they keep pushing the envelope. So what should we do? Kevin Yancey has said often, the King of Waynesboro on this program, what's the solution? What is the solution to the bus driver crisis? What is the solution to the teacher crisis? What is the solution to SOL scores in the toilet? 9% of elementary black students at Scottsville Elementary have passed the math SOL. 9%. The solution is as clear as day to me. As clear as day. As obvious to me as we need oxygen to survive. You're not going to fill this teacher void. 8.1 million public school employees in March 2020, 7.3 million public school employees in May of this year. The pandemic, collateral damage yet again. We've seen the collateral damage with semiconductors, with computer chips. We've seen the collateral damage with housing. We've seen the collateral damage with used cars. We've seen the collateral damage with packs of bacon, gallons of milk, loaves of bread, and now the collateral damage we are seeing, my friends, with teachers and bus drivers. How do you get more teachers in the classroom, and how do you start getting teacher-student ratios that are manageable? Well, it's clear-cut. You give them more money. Am I saying raising taxes? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying raising taxes at all. I'm not saying raising taxes. I'm saying taking money that's already in the budget and allocating it more intelligently. The challenges of 2018 in Albemarle County and the challenges of 2018 in the city of Charlottesville, when we were fresh from August 12, 2017, are very different than the challenges of September 2022. The key performance indicators have shifted, and school systems have to allocate budgets based on shifting KPIs. And if you don't, and I left this comment on the I Love CVille network over the weekend, guess what you become? You become a dinosaur. You become Kodak film. You become MySpace. You become the yellow pages in the phone book. You don't adjust to market conditions, you become a relic. And it's no secret, the educational gap between public schools and private schools is wider than it's ever been. Wider than ever. You know why that is? Because mom and dads are frustrated. And when you have politicians like Terry McAuliffe telling Commonwealth voters and Virginians that you, the parents, shouldn't be involved in your kids' education, you laugh, you scoff, and it influences how you vote on Election Day. And as a result, Glenn Youngkin is our governor. The political climate in Charlottesville City, in Albemarle County, in Central Virginia, and in the Commonwealth of Virginia is shifting. Moms and dads are voting on schools and with their pocketbooks. The voting that happened before COVID was associated with a, air quotes, woke mentality or perspective. Today, moms and dads are voters are realizing that woke mentality and perspective has left us in this scenario. A scenario when we would rather take a logo off a gymnasium floor, pull up that entire gym so we can rebrand it, take a sign outside of a school, destroy that sign and put a new one in, take the business cards and the letterhead, throw them away and buy new ones, take the uniforms for the athletic teams, toss them in the garbage and buy new ones for the sole purpose of rebranding. Instead of doing that, here's a crazy idea. Give the money to the teachers and the bus drivers and the substitutes and the after-school assistants. If you pay people more, they're going to stay on the job. Why do we work? One of the main reasons we work is to pay our bills, to put a roof over our head and food on our table. And yes, teachers, they may be more altruistic, philanthropic than, say, a small business owner. But they still need to pay their bills, their rent, their mortgage, and buy food. And according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, there are 800 less people in public schools than March of 2020 when COVID struck. And as a result, the SOLs are down, performance-wise. The quality of life is down for students and teachers. And we're left scratching our head. Why is the Albemarle County public school system and school board members Kate Acuff, Katrina Coulson, Judy Lee, Graham Page, Ellen Osborne, David Oberg, Yono Alcaro still focused on signage and logos and letterhead and uniforms and gymnasium floors, instead of going to our most critically important commodity, our human capital, the most important commodity of any school system, the people who teach. And I'm not talking the superintendent, the assistant superintendents, and the bloated salaries atop the pyramid. That's a topic that we'll get to in a matter of moments, and I have a feeling Judah's going to bring that up. I'm talking about the front line. The front line. The aides, the subs, the assistants, the teachers, and the drivers. Why is it the front line constantly is marginalized and taken advantage of? Front line, police, marginalized, taken advantage of. Frontline firefighters, marginalized, taken advantage of. Frontline EMTs, marginalized, taken advantage of. Frontline teachers, subs, aides, assistants, marginalized, taken advantage of. Why is it the front line where it's the biggest base of numbers, the biggest base of people in the operation? Why are they the ones taken advantage of when they are the populace when it comes to numbers? But that's what's happening. That's literally what's happening. So I'm going to welcome Judah to the show here in about 20 seconds, Judah. I'm going to close the monologue by saying, enough already. Your school board members are Yono Alcaro, the at-large representative, David Oberg from the Whitehall Magisterial District, Ellen Osborne from the Scottsville District, Graham Page, the chair from the Samuel Miller District, Judy Lee from the Rivanna District, Katrina Coulson from the Rio District, and Katie Acuff from the Jack Jewett District. Email them, call them, stop them on the side of the road, hold them accountable, and say enough already. Dr. Matthew Haas, Superintendent of Albemarle County Schools, I'm going to send you an email after this show, and I'm going to invite you onto this program, and we'll see if you respond. I'm looking at your email address here, Matt Haas. I'm going to send you an email after this show and say, you have an invitation to come on this show. It's long-form content. What you say cannot be taken out of context. Come on the show and speak to Albemarle County taxpayers. Will Dr. Matthew Haas respond to my email? Someone tag him and let him know we're having this conversation. I'm sure he's watching right now. I was contacted over the weekend by a vice principal who asked for anonymity. The vice principal who contacted me over the weekend, who asked for anonymity, said, Jerry, the teachers are on your side. Keep pushing and doing what you're doing. The vice principal also said these rebranding efforts are way more expensive than the hundreds of thousands of dollars you're indicating they are costing. The vice principal said when they rebranded our school, they remodeled our gym, including the gym floor and the walls in the gym. We also got completely new signage all over the school. They gave away all of our sports uniforms and merchandise. They ordered new sports uniforms and merchandise. They destroyed our business cards and school letterhead. They ordered brand new letterhead and business cards for everyone. It is more than what you think. Keep pushing, Jerry. Most of us are on your side. Judah Wickower, 2-shot. The jack of all wits. J-Dubs, as he's known from the hallowed grounds of Virginia Beach.
Oh, don't act like he started calling you that.
To the busy, busy streets of Northern Virginia. There's no doubt that nickname originated in this office, but it's caught on like wildfire. Your take when preparing for the show, I thought was a good one. My friend, the bloat on the payroll when it comes to the top of the pyramid. The show is yours.
Yeah, I mean, we all know that teachers and bus drivers are underpaid, and as some people over the weekend commented, there are, I'm speaking of bloat, there's been a massive influx of new administrators, new administration in schools, and very little growth in in teachers, and I mean, what you end up with in any setting is when you have an overabundance of administrators, I mean, what do administrators do?
Administrate.
Yeah, I mean that's the kind way of putting it. I think in a lot of cases they just take up office seats and pull in a paycheck, and what do they really do? I mean, there is occasionally some need for them, but I think too often we end up with just a bunch of people trying to tell people how to run things.
Has anyone seen Dr. Matthew Haas pursue a CDL, a commercial driver's license, to help this school bus driver crisis? What is the most important thing about public schools, Judah? What is the first key component for a properly run public school system?
The first key component? Teachers, I guess.
Getting the kids to school for the start of school.
Okay.
If the kids aren't at school, they can't learn, right?
That is true.
Are the six-figure salaried employees saying, good God, we can't get the kids to school, let me put down my administrative duties and go get a CDL and start driving these damn buses? We've known the bus driver crisis was going to be an issue for a long period of time. And why we knew this was going to be an issue, remember during COVID, we had Earl Smith and Bob Warren on the program, 2 bus drivers. Mm-hmm. Both of them were mandated by the school system to get vaccinated. And both of them said they would not get vaccinated, and they said there were a number of bus drivers within the Albemarle County Public School System that also refused vaccinations. And they said this was going to cause a crisis. We've known about this shortage of drivers since early mid-pandemic.
I don't think we had any idea that it was going to be this bad.
We've known about it since early mid-pandemic. Have the superintendents or the administrators, since we've known about this since early mid-pandemic, a talk show host knew about this since early mid-pandemic. I would imagine the superintendents knew about this before the talk show host. You hope to God.
You would hope that they would know the problems that are going on in their own school system.
Did they pursue CDLs as a backup option? The most important thing for a school system to run functionally is A, get the kids to the school. If the kids aren't in the school, they can't learn. Neil Williamson, president of the Free Enterprise Forum, leaves a comment on the feed. And he says, Jerry and Judah, and Neil, we love when you watch the show. He points out how, of the school board members, in 2021, all 3 Albemarle County school board members ran unopposed. All 3. Elections matter. Danny O'Day, DOD, says this. His fiancée is a teacher. Every year, my fiancée spends at least her entire first paycheck getting supplies for her classroom, not to mention all the extras she picks up throughout the year. Every year, my fiancée spends at least her entire first paycheck getting supplies for her classroom, not to mention all the extras she picks up throughout the year.
Teachers are heroes.
Heroes. Heroes. Why are the heroes poorly paid? Police, firefighters, EMTs, teachers. Why are they poorly paid?
Because nobody's changing it.
I'm genuinely asking that question. Why are they poorly paid?
Because nobody's changing it.
Why are they? Tom Stargell, a retired teacher himself. Tom Stargell says, I believe Dr. Matthew Haas has a CDL. This topic is important to me because right now I'm seeing this topic about to impact my kid, our kid. Albemarle County Schools, us. There's no one my wife and I cherish and love more dearly than our son. And we feel the same way about number 2 that's on the way. That's 10 weeks from birth. I beg you guys, Judah, I'm begging them to please contact Kate Acuff, Katrina Coulson, Judy Lee, Graham Page, Ellen Osborne, Dave Oberg, Jono Alcaro, the Albemarle County School Board members, and say, what would you say to them?
Let's see. I would tell them that they have a crisis on their hands, and they're apparently they have their backs to it, and they're looking at the wrong thing.
Right? Doesn't this seem so obvious?
It does seem like they could be focusing a little more effort on getting kids to school and making sure that they have enough teachers to take care of all of them.
You know what the scary thing about all this is? Is the public school enrollment is dropping, J-Dubs, and the funding from the Commonwealth is based on enrollment numbers. Mm-hmm. So as the public school enrollment drops, the schools get less money from Virginia.
Yeah.
And as they get less money from Virginia, they have less money to operate.
But they also spend a certain amount on each student. So I think there's a balance point. At some point they reach kind of like a...
the term is called economies of scale.
Okay.
It's a business term.
Okay.
There is a balance point. But that point, this is the businessman in me. The economies of scale tip in favor of the schools. Because a teacher can teach 8 kids in a similar fashion of 14. The teacher cannot teach 14 in the similar fashion of 33, but it can certainly teach 8 kids in the similar fashion of 14 or 16. So that revenue that comes in per student becomes something that you can utilize for other purposes. Economies of scale. Meriwether-Lewis is the latest. It's being considered for rebranding.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
I mean, it sounds like somebody doesn't like history. I mean, are they no longer teaching history in schools? Because I would imagine that a lot of the history that goes on in Virginia schools, and I have no idea because I never went to school here, would have to deal with all of these currently troublesome personalities. I mean, do you stop teaching kids about Jack Jewett's ride?
I'll throw this to you. We've talked about the cost of we're in the branding business, right? This is literally how we pay our bills, right? We build brands. That's VMV brands that you see behind Judah and I. VMV brands. You see it behind us? You see it literally above Judah's head. VMV brands. We are an advertising agency. We know how extremely difficult it is to build brands, right? And how extremely difficult, Judah, it is to rebrand something. right? Especially when it has years of equity behind it.
Yeah, I don't know if
This is
that
what
holds
I'm
as
getting at
true
here.
with schools, but
Well,
yeah.
here's what I'm getting at here. Sutherland, this is sad. Thank you for this text message. You know who you are. I will not utilize your name. The same person who sent me this text message, doing the right thing is never wrong thing. This particular person, she sent me a very succinct art you made my day. I'm just going to leave it at that, okay? I thank you. She sent me this. Sutherland Middle School has been rebranded Lakeside Middle School.
Mm-hmm.
She sent me a screenshot. I want everyone to go to Facebook and type in Sutherland Middle School PTO. The school's been rebranded Lakeside, but the PTO Facebook page still says Sutherland Middle School on it. She also says this. The big signage at the school has not been updated. She said, at open house, most teachers at Lakeside were still referring to the school as Sutherland.
Yeah.
She says, looking at this from a pure marketing standpoint, the follow-through has been non-existent. After the initial hubbub, what's the word?
Hubbub?
Hubbub had calmed down. She said, rebranding takes money and time, and it's an ongoing effort. And it hasn't been executed particularly well. The PTO Facebook page still says Sutherland. Does the sign going into Sutherland, Lakeside, still say Sutherland? The teachers at the parent-teacher conference meetings are still calling it Sutherland.
Yeah, well, you can't expect everyone to stop calling a school what it was previously named.
Exactly my point.
Okay.
That's exactly my point. There's my point. The rebranding efforts take time and money. We can quantify how much it costs to rebrand a school based on gymnasium flooring and letterhead and business cards and school uniform, but that's not going to change the vernacular or the vocabulary. And I want everyone to realize this. There are hard costs associated with rebranding. That gym floor costs this much money to change the logo at center court. There's a hard cost for that. That sign outside the school costs this much money for a signage company to do. Here's the bill. You know what you cannot quantify with a line item?
No.
The effort from a human capital standpoint and the opportunity cost associated with that effort. There's only limited times, a limited amount of hours during a school day for people to work. And if administrators and superintendents and vice principals and principals and chairs of departments are spending human capital and time on rebranding efforts, the opportunity cost of that time is what they could be doing elsewhere
Okay.
to help the kids. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Only a certain amount of time, and God knows teachers go above and beyond the call of duty. But there's only a certain amount of time in a day. And if you're asking the teachers to do more with less, the result is burnout. And burnout leads to quitting. And you combine burnout with doing more with less, with COVID, the pandemic, the struggles with virtual learning, the uncertainty about school shootings, and the fact that kids aren't listening as much as they used to, you have, understandably, a shortage of teachers and drivers. And bing, bam, boom, we're in this situation. It's a freaking snowball effect. And you know who wins from this? Who's the winners?
The sign companies? I don't know.
They're the winners. The signage companies are the winners. Who else are the winners?
Tell me.
Private schools,
Yeah.
I'd say the private schools won. They
It's
got
not-
more enrollment.
It's not necessarily a bad thing if they're doing a better job teaching kids.
Except if you can't afford to go there.
Yeah.
Then you're left with the crumbs. And that's how the cookie crumbles. Right? Judah makes a phenomenal point. The bloat at the top of the pyramid. How about we start holding those salaries even more accountable and spread some of that wealth around to the front line? How about we start prioritizing SOLs again?
Is that a good thing?
Prioritizing SOLs, a common playing field that people can be graded upon?
I mean, I've heard some less than flattering things about the SOLs, and
I never understood the deprioritization of common playing fields. Never understood it.
I think I understand it a little bit. I think the problem is that you call it an even playing field, but it's really not.
How is it not an even playing field?
Because not everybody learns the same way, not everybody tests the same way, and to say that everybody needs to take exactly the same test to prove that...
Then what's the better method?
You're asking the wrong person. I'm just saying that SOLs...
Seems like to me that's the best method possible.
Okay.
I'm just spitballing. I'm not trying to be combative.
I know. I'm saying that I've got a friend in Waynesboro who teaches mentally handicapped kids, and they have to take SOLs too. They're trying to get these kids to take the same SOLs that like everybody else in the school is taking, and it's not an even playing field. And I've also heard that at times teachers end up basically jumping around a book to teach kids X and Y and Z so that they can fill in X and Y and Z on an SOL test. Rather than actually teaching them math, they are now forced to teach them this part of the math book and this part of the math book and that part of the math book so that the kids can do well on an SOL test that has absolutely no bearing except on how much money the school gets.
That's a fair point.
I would much rather kids learn what they need to learn. I mean, if you've ever dealt with kids in a learning environment, you don't just teach them like one thing and have them like, if you've ever tried to memorize something, that's not a natural way of learning something.
Points from Judah.
You don't jump from one point in the book to another point in the book to another point in the book and memorize 3 different things and then write them down on a test and now what? You know math? No, that's not how it works.
Even better points from Judah.
It's the same. You build upon prior knowledge, and if you're not doing that, then you're basically just teaching someone to fill in a test and make money for the school.
Judah crushing it right now.
Which is not what I think we want out of our schools.
Home run. Best take he's given on the I Love Seville show in some time. Give Judah Wickhauer some props in the feed. Bravo. Then what's the playing field? What's the accountability mechanism?
I don't know. I mean, this is something that people that are in the business need to figure out.
Is it graduation rates? Is it college rates? It's certainly not students going to college. It's not students going to college. That at one time was the accountability mechanism. How many kids in the senior class got accepted into a 4-year school? That's archaic. That's not it anymore. You made phenomenal points about the SOL. We understand that the SAT and the ACT are weighted in favor of those that have wealth and resources. Fair points. Fair points from Judah. What is the accountability mechanism that determines whether or not someone is doing their job? You know what the accountability mechanism for us at this company is?
Is that a question for me to answer?
Can we keep the lights on?
That's a fair metric.
What was the accountability mechanism for the Downtown Grill? Wild Wing Cafe? What was the accountability mechanism for Fellini's? The accountability mechanism for Commonwealth Sky Bar? What was the accountability mechanism for Ruby Tuesdays, Bennigan's, Kodak, MySpace, the phone book, legacy media, newspapers? What is the accountability mechanism for schools? In the private sector, it's revenue. What is it in schools? We don't even have one.
That's a tough one. And
we don't have one.
Because it's, you know.
You know what the accountability mechanism for private schools is? Paid tuition. Clear cut. Paid tuition. Private schools, paid tuition, accountability mechanism. What is the accountability mechanism for public schools? Somebody, dear God, help me figure this out. What is the accountability mechanism for public schools?
Well, sadly, I think it's SOLs.
And it is sad. For every point you just made, which I think were damn good. Viewers and listeners, what is the accountability mechanism for public schools? Because whatever the hell that accountability mechanism is, it is wrong and it is not indicative of what is actually happening. Hey, I'm going to be it. Fresh out of college, fresh out of the Curry School education. I'm doe-eyed, I'm full of zest, I'm full of passion, and you know what, Judah? I'm going to make a difference in the world. I'm going to shape the next generation of bright young minds, and I'm going to mold them into something special. How long does that zest and passion get eroded away like a number 2 pencil after the SATs? When that first-year teacher has to take her first paycheck and buy supplies, when that first-year teacher realizes that that 19-person class that she thought or he thought was going to be her dream ends up being 34. How long does it erode away when that teacher says, good God, these kids, all they do is stay on their cell phones with their earbuds in, and as you explained to everybody last year, hitting the vape in the classroom. Or worse, the kids aren't even in class because they can't get to school on time because there's not enough bus drivers. And guess what? Teachers are smart. They had to go through school to get to that point. So they can utilize those life skills and probably get a job just about anywhere. Because you know what teachers are? They're team players. They're eager to make a difference. And those personality traits are welcomed and encouraged and embraced by the private sector. I'm going to leave you with these thoughts. And if you have any, please let me know. You want to go first? I got a 145.
Yeah, you know, we kind of jokingly talked not too long ago about getting rid of public schools, about having more schools that catered to the actual students. And I think you know, I take a look at some schools like Tandem, and I see that I think they really focus on pushing students in their it's more like a college. You don't go to college and take a bunch of classes that are completely unrelated to your chosen field. And what I see in some charter schools is a willingness to push students to choose a path. And I think when you're putting children in those types of situations, you really have a much better chance of getting them to shine, because you're not leveling the playing field, so to speak, so that everybody is taking the same classes and learning the same information and doing the same thing that may have absolutely zero application for their lives in the future. And you're really focusing on what makes this child tick and what do they need to learn and what is the best path for them. And I find that far more, fulfilling as a student in school to be what's the word? To have someone come alongside you and really understand what it is that you need and and where it is that you're heading.
Are you on a 2-shot?
I hope so.
I'm coming over.
Thank you.
You kicked some ass today.
Thank you.
I'm going to close with this. I want an accountability measure for public schools not tied to SOLs and standardized tests. I want somebody to figure out what that is. And neither Judah nor I are the ones to figure that out.
Definitely not.
I want to figure out why 3 school board seats in 2021 went unopposed. No one ran against them. I want you to call the superintendent's office and say, enough already, and use that phrase, enough already. Write the emails, make the phone calls, go there in person, and look at the superintendent and his team in the eye and say, enough already. We're sick and tired of spending money at a time when we have a drop in teachers and drivers and we can't get kids to school and from school, and we're tired of spending our tax dollars on rebranding, and instead we want to invest in human capital. Do that today, do that this week. We will continue to push this forward. I want all of us to realize that we're in crisis mode right now. This is the collateral damage of COVID. And the unfortunate collateral damage of COVID that is ravaging middle class and lower class Americans, Virginians, and Central Virginians. Ravaging us. You know what's going to hurt the middle class and the lower class even more? When we put our most important aspects of our life, our children, into schools we can't afford, because the public schools are in this situation. Then you have less disposable income to spend at locally owned businesses, and Main Street suffers, and then mom and pops close. My name is Jerry Miller, and this is the I Love CVille show on a Monday. So long.